Okay, so we're just going to pick up Brian's story.
Okay.
Thanks, Brian.
Part 2.
Yeah.
Brian, before you continue, I wanted to ask you what type of craft that was that you saw in your vision.
It was circular.
What, like a sphere? Or?
No, it was like it was like a deep at the bottom, round, and it was like a dome on top.
Yeah.
Like a crash helmet.
Crash helmet would be too roundy. That'd be too. It didn't seem as high as that.
Dome disc, yeah.
It seemed like a lot of it was. It's almost like the bottom part that was circular around. It's more like the dustbin lid shape, rather than a high dome.
I got you.
It's more like the Abductee craft, isn't it?
Yeah, sort of. Or the Minville.
And there seemed lots of colours with it.
So is this 1951?
No, this was later on when I was a teenager.
Right,
so yeah, that
Colours, what, emanating from it, or or from definite light sources on it?
Light sources on it.
Right.
Yeah, there was. Yeah. Oh no, not. It wasn't projecting the colours other than it was the colours seemed part of it.
Yeah.
But it was. I've got an image, and if I was a good artist, I might be able to draw something, but to describe it, a bit awkward. It's a bit awkward. Right. Okay.
Do you want to draw?
I'm not very good at it.
We've got a flip chart if anybody does.
I draw
want
for a
to
living,
scribble.
but not artistically. Right. Okay. Someone that was living with me at the time, like myself, used to go. Well, still do go to a spiritualist church, and part of what I do there is regression and transfiguration. In the transfiguration, I was standing in my kitchen, and a friend who was living with me at the time said, why don't we do a bit of transfiguration? So we wasn't doing this from any UFO or any other reason than to do with what we sometimes do at the spiritualist place where we go. We did a short meditation, and she was standing about 4 foot away from me, looking at me, and I felt that I was standing next to her, looking back at myself, and it was really a weird sensation because I was outside of myself looking at me, and it's like my face, again, it's something that Scott said about what you saw about a craft, where you only saw part of it. My face, I don't know if it was like a reptilian, but it was like a scaly and red and quite big and roundish. Scales, not like fish scales, but it's almost like different. Imagine if you got lumps of red coal, put them everywhere, it looked a bit more like that in that sort of configuration. And parts of my face was only visible. It's almost as if everything, the time synchronization was all out. I could see my eye, but I couldn't see the rest of my face, and I see a bit of my mouth and that. But it's happening so quick that you could see the whole outline of my face. And the remarkable thing was, my friend described this to me. She described what she was seeing, and it was exactly the same, and I mean exactly the same as what I was seeing. I could never prove to her, of course, that what she was saying.
Yeah.
I saw the same. I couldn't prove to anyone, but she proved to me that what she saw, I don't doubt for one instant that what she saw was very real, and it's exactly the same as what I saw. And I felt that I felt that I belonged to something else. Part of me was, there's another dimension that wasn't with Brian, it was belonging somewhere else.
Yeah,
I felt that's what we were seeing.
That does actually fit in with some of the cases that I've investigated where people have seen themselves, sometimes under aggression, sometimes not. They've actually seen themselves as a grey or as a reptilian. Yeah. Whether you're seeing aspects of yourself through that, and it's showing in that visual form. It's hard to say, really.
Yeah, and sorry, when I said I do regression, I don't. I meant to say transfiguration. Yeah. And I was a bit nervous, and I didn't correct myself then. I wanted to keep with the flow. So I've never been regressed, and I've never done it. Perhaps that's something one day. I've always felt that I've been getting all through my later life. Probably the second half of my life, I felt that I've been getting information, and I've been feeling it here, as if I've been getting something fed to me. I don't know the details of that information, but I'm aware when I'm getting it. It's it's almost like, here they go again, they're giving me something, and I feel that's for something later on, that something other than Brian, part of me, is getting fed.
Is that like a sensation, Brian? Like a specific sensation
yes,
that you get used to, and you just know something's being downloaded, and then does it last a moment, or is it for an hour or two, or how? Or it can
be for a couple of hours sometimes. Yes, at any particular time. It just not just aware that they're giving me information. And I know that it's not for Brian, it's for another dimension of me, if you like. Yeah. That's what I'm feeling. I'm a spiritual healer, and also link in with a being that comes from a long, long way away, and that is... It's like a light greeny colour, very physically very delicate, and I've seen him. I say him. I don't think it's got a gender, but it almost looks like. How could I describe it?
Is this a being that comes through with the healing?
It comes through with the healing, yeah. When that normally gives that. If someone was a harsh person, he wouldn't be able to come through, because there's such a delicate, emotionally or sort of his energies are very delicate. Even though as a being, he can be powerful in his own way. I say he, it's not a he or a she, but I'm just using it as a description. It looks more like head looks a little bit like a locust. It's a very unusual looking, yeah.
It's very
or praying mantis type looking head.
I was going to say it's very of that.
Yeah, yeah, but almost like with fins, not where you might be rounded. It's almost like it comes out into sort of like fins a bit. Yeah. Lots of things. I've seen lots of flying objects, UFOs. I've seen one where I went round to my friends with my wife, and as we was going in, someone pointed up to the sky and said, "Look at that," and we thought it was a satellite. I know there's hundreds up there, and we just thought we was watching the satellite, and all of a sudden, as it was going round, it went off at 90 degrees for a short distance and then stopped. And we watched it for about 5 minutes and it didn't move any more than that. So then we went in. Another time I've been walking along and we see this object in the sky, and it just seemed to be going, the speed of it must have been going about 10 miles an hour. It was so slow I couldn't believe that something could stay up in the air with the speed it was going. And for some reason or other, I don't know, it's like where it would have been fascinating to watch it, it's almost as if I was compelled not to. It was as if we just went away and left it, and to this day I can't understand why we didn't say, let's get the camera, let's take a shot, let's study it, what's it going to do next.
You had a camera with you, yeah, but you didn't.
No, we didn't have a camera, but we was near someone's house. We could have gone. It was that slow. We could have gone and got a camera and you know, set the camera up and shot it. But for some reason, we felt as if blasé about it.
Yeah.
You know, and
Very
to this day I don't know why.
Can we have just a look? Simon's drawn as a little depiction, and I don't know whether that has any.
It was when you said like a locust.
Sort of relevance for you.
Yes, there is elements there. Yes, but there was also along the sides of his head there was almost like fins.
Bumps.
Like ridges.
No, almost like a.
Oh, like a little fin.
Like a little fin. Yeah,
okay.
like each side.
Like a henna.
No, just like as if it's. Imagine a fin going. If you stuck like a half a leaf along each side of his head, it looked like that.
Do you remember the skin tone, the colour, or?
Yeah, it was light green.
Oh, that was the light
green. Yeah.
Brian, do you mind if we...
Yes, that's
wonderful. Thank you
Yep.
very much. And just with time constraints, we're just going to move on.
I'm David from Birmingham. I'll just introduce myself first. I wasn't going to say anything originally, but I thought, what the heck, I might as well, seeing as I'm here and everyone else has done their part. So I'm sort of quite new to it. I'm only 22, so it's sort of all starting to happen for me. What can I say really? I've had two sort of main events really that I can recall, and just other weird things that have happened in between. First thing that happened to me that I can recall was when I was about, I think, 7 or something like that. I can't remember exactly how old I was, but I remember just going to bed on a normal night. It was near the end of the year, so it was quite cold outside. And the next thing I know, I'm stood in the back garden. We had like a pile of slabs because there was some work going on at the bottom of the garden. I think my dad was doing some patio or something and just had some slabs down there. And I was just sort of leaning against these slabs, and I was just in my boxers. So I could feel the cold on me. It felt quite real. I couldn't sort of look straight up above me, but like there was just like a white light that covered the whole garden. I just had the urge to look sort of down, and like on my left leg there was like some sort of painting on my leg. It looked like sort of like a flag or something. And then the next thing that I know, I'm in my bed. Check my leg, like, and there's nothing there. And then like the next day, I think it was the next day or so, like I found something actually sticking out of my leg, sort of metallic sort of thing. My dad actually like pulled it out, just thought nothing of it and just chucked it in the bin. And then like 3 days later, the same thing come back in my leg in exactly the same place. And my dad's actually an electronics engineer. Well, he's retired now, but he looks at it and he says, yeah, it's some sort of metal, but I don't know what it is. Like, and we just chuck that away as well, because I didn't like really tell them like what the experiences were with it. So I didn't like want them to think I was mad or anything. And then, like, more recently this year, I had another experience where I can actually remember a bit more. I didn't actually see any beings. I think they used like screen imaging. I went to bed again, as you do. And sort of, it was like a dream, but it wasn't. It was like I was in a trance sort of thing. And the next thing I know, I'm in like some sort of, it was like it was a flat or something, but some of the rooms inside it looked similar to the ones of the house where I live with my parents. And there was someone like guiding me, like, well, people around me, if you can call them people, beings maybe, sort of like holding onto my arm, sort of guiding me around. And there was lots of other beings in there moving about, but to me they looked like human beings, but I don't think they actually was. And they sort of showed me, like, made me look into a room that was identical to my parents' bedroom, and I could actually see my parents in the bed in there. Maybe that was to make me feel safer or something, I don't know. And then the next thing I know, I was walking along a field, like a green field, with somebody on my left-hand side just holding onto my arm, and I was walking along. I don't know what else happened there, but then the next thing I know, I'm back in this sort of flat, in a room. There's loads of sort of people around me, and then my sister, this is my sister, Tracy, she was in the room. Well, she was in the room in front of me, and then she says, I've come to take you back now. And then the next thing I know, I'm in my bed, wide awake, sitting up, and I hear like this loud sort of whooshing noise outside of the window, sort of going up, and I felt extremely tired and exhausted, like I had no sleep whatsoever. And I found it sort of hard to come to terms with, but I sort of knew what was going on. I just burst into tears because I couldn't handle it.
You know, you need tokens to go out the barrier.
Carry on. Yeah, it was quite sort of traumatic for me. I was still crying, and I actually sort of stood up out of bed. I turned the light on. I could still hear this loud noise from outside. That didn't sound like a plane or anything going past, because I know what that sounds like, and it certainly wasn't that. And just still hearing the sound while I'm physically, conscious and aware, just put things more sort of, real to me and really frightened me. And this was near the start of this year. I'm 22 years old, and I went into my parents' bedroom and got in bed with them, and I was trembling with fear that much. I was literally like holding on to my dad, and my mum is a really sceptical person.
Yeah.
She's like talking to a brick wall, so she doesn't take anything of this in. So she probably thought I was completely nuts. My dad sort of tried to acknowledge things, and because he's quite an open-minded person.
Yeah. Do you know why you felt so frightened and emotional? Because obviously the experience which you've just described.
I think it's because I could remember more of it, and it felt more real. Than,
do you think you had more?
And now I'm older.
Remember, yeah.
Because I think it's because I'm older as well. I'm not as young as I was before.
Yeah.
I'm more aware to it.
Yes.
But I think it really sort of shocked me into this is real and this is actually happening to me.
Yeah.
Since then, I can't really say anything else that I can remember has happened to me. But that was at the start of this year when that happened. But I can say more recently, my mum, who is actually sceptical, came to me a couple of weeks ago, and she said, I had this really weird dream. She said I was completely naked walking down this dirt road, and this guy come up to me and said, I can help you or something, and put her in a car or something, a vehicle. And then she said the next thing she knows, she's in a room that's like white light all around her, and she's in the room, and I was in the room as well. And she said there was some sort of machine in the corner, and they wanted me to repair the machine or something, and then they would actually let us go. And like, as soon as my mum told me that, I thought, that sounds really familiar, but I can't actually recall any memory of that, like, for myself. But it's just strange that my mum told me that, you know.
Yeah.
Because she's not the kind of person at all. I'm sure my sister will confirm that for you. You know, she's just a closed-minded person. Like, she just accepts anything that's in front of her, like on the telly or something, you know.
I suppose that's what a lot of you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis off a lot of the general public. There's a lot of people who aren't sort of open enough to it, or haven't looked into it enough to kind of really realise the extent of which it's going on. So I think if people sort of opened their eyes more and actually took a look at the experiences, they would certainly change their mind, at least some of them.
I mean, it's interesting that she mentioned the dream to you as well.
Yeah,
because it's
quite strange, like, you know. But now, like, I've bad trouble sleeping at night. I've took sleeping pills. I'm a student, so I have to be up for university, and I've missed quite a lot of time off because of lack of sleep.
Yeah.
And taking sleeping pills just wasn't a good idea. But like, not long ago, I went to my girlfriend's. She lives down south, and I felt safe with her. So, you know, I actually got some decent night's sleep there. And then I come back home, 3 days. I had, you know, decent night's sleep for about 3 days, and then back to the same thing again. Yeah. Had to turn my light on, sit up thinking, you know, when's it going to happen next?
Yeah.
You know, so it's just like you're waiting for something to happen again.
Yeah, it's something that many Contactees have to deal with. I'm sure many of you can relate to that.
And
every day. Every day.
Yeah, it's every single day.
It seems to be the first thing you think of when you wake up in the morning, and it's the last thing that's going through your mind as you're going to sleep.
Exactly.
But personally, I can't wait for it to happen again. I mean, despite all the trauma and the mind trying to get used to it, I love it. I love them. And the feeling of love that you can receive back from them is fantastic. I know
I've heard that before as well, very strongly.
It's just like magnified. It's so intense. Sorry.
No,
that's all right.
And you know, I know. So your brother and sister, and great to see you both here. But maybe we could have your point of view, Tracy.
Yeah, I must say, having Tracy that's had experience as well.
Yeah.
There's been someone else to talk to, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't feel alone in the situation.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? The isolation that is so crippling.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much. It's wonderful to share.
Right, my name's Tracy. I'm 24 from Birmingham. Pretty much all my life, as far as I can remember, I've had paranormal activity going on constantly. My nan's told me stories from when I was 3 that I'd used to tell her, and obviously when I heard about David's experiences with like ETs, I always thought that was kind of more his thing, and the paranormal was more mine, and I never expected anything to happen to me, which is a bit naive, really. This year, my first experience that I remember is I woke up a number of times in the middle of the night or early morning. I remember turning over because I sensed something was on the bed, and I saw a creature, turned over, went back to sleep instead of being like, oh my God, what the hell's that? I can't remember exactly what happened, but I know I woke up not long after that and just had the thought in my head of I've been abducted. And the next thing that I seem to remember is something like a metal rod just gently touching my temple. And then I kind of woke up and carried on normally throughout the day, and I think it got to about the afternoon and I actually started to remember it and was thinking, oh my God, what on earth was that? And then I got a little bit freaked out by it. And
You also had the mark.
Oh yeah, that was the other thing that happened. one of the times that I woke up, I think it was before the metal rod, I woke up and I was facing the wrong way, because I normally sleep on my left and not my right, and I was on my right, and I was a bit confused to why I was there. And my right leg that I was lying on was itching and throbbing. So I give it a bit of a scratch and went back to sleep. And when I actually checked my leg, I think it was that night or the day after, I had a bruise and like a little red dot, almost like an injection site, which I've actually still got. The red mark's still there, but the bruise faded very quickly. But yeah, it's very intriguing. I'm very kind of interested now in what on earth's going on, although I'm still absolutely petrified at the same time. And I think it was about a month ago, I had another experience. Well, I think I went to sleep and I woke up again in the night, and it was because I'd heard trickling water that was from by the bedroom door, and I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. It wasn't from the bathroom, or just couldn't figure out what it was. And I got like, quite an uneasy feeling, and I turned and looked like, around the room, and I looked by my partner, and what I could see was almost like the shape of a grey but wider. But it was like looking through a thin layer of water. And then there was another one that was down by his knees. It looked like it was bent over, which was really strange. And I remember I was gripping onto my bed going, "You're not going to get me, you're not going to take me." And then the next thing I remember is I turned over and the uneasy feeling went, and I managed to go back to sleep. And I remember waking up again later. I think I'd been asleep, or either that or I was dozing, but I could hear like a beeping noise, like a irregular beeping noise, but it wasn't. I think the best way to describe it is like almost a translucent noise, like it was there but it wasn't, and I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. It was just in the room, it weren't coming from anything in particular. It's just this beeping noise, and I remember listening, and every time I closed my eyes it was beeping, but I opened my eyes and it stopped. And I remember listening to outside, and I could hear, like I've heard 2 or 3 times, it's like a cross between a plane and a car, but like a low humming level, and that went on from anywhere up to 10 minutes to half an hour. But I've had what I've classed as flashbacks from these 2 things that have happened. The first one that happened, I think it was a few days later, I had flashbacks of I was laid down, and I was in, all I could see was like a white yellow light room, and there was a being that was kind of to the left of me, but it looked quite old. It was like a grey but really almost wrinkly. And the next flash of it was standing to the right side of me. It was looking straight at me, and it had its mouth wide open. The other thing that I remember seeing is the one that was on my bed, walking from the bottom of the bed round to me. But it was a different one to the one with its mouth open. And the other image that I've had from the second thing that happened was seeing at the end of the bed, just poking up over the bottom of the bars, a little grey head. Well, it was quite a big grey head, and it had like a line down the middle, like a slight dip down the middle, with big grey eyes. And it did freak me out a little bit. But a few days after the beeping noise, I remember I was sat in my living room watching TV and playing on my laptop, and everybody had gone to bed, and I heard the beeping noise again, and it was coming from the left of me, and I couldn't figure out again what it was from. And then I got a really, really uneasy feeling, and I gripped my phone really tightly, and I was just tried to carry on as normal, and eventually it just went away, and I went to bed and carried on.
Do you feel that on either or both of those experiences you were taken aboard a craft?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I've also had, there's 2 nights in a row, and I've never ever had this before, is excruciatingly painful, well, not period pains, but only of a night time. Haven't suffered them throughout the day at all. It's just 2 nights in a row that it kept waking me up because I was in that much pain with it. And I can't explain it. I've spoke to my doctor and she says there's no medical explanation for it at all. Very strange.
Sorry, can I ask can you remember can you remember asking your brother when he had his experience to you coming home? Or what was it? What did she say to you?
She said to take him home.
No.
Could you not remember any of that?
No.
No, that's interesting.
I think that was them using screening.
She wasn't really there. Yeah,
Another thing is, since I've had my experiences, I've actually remembered doing some drawings when I was younger. I've been to my parents' house and I've actually found them, and it's like a sequence of hybrids from grey to human. And I've done, it's a fair bit of detail, and I've wrote on the back the percentages of what I thought they were, and on the back of some of them I've drawn up the mouths. I don't know what it is about the mouths, they seem to want to show me the mouths.
I remember you drawing them.
Yeah, when we discussed those in detail, Tracy, it seems that you're in some way related with this hybrid breeding program, but you have no real recollection of where those drawings came from, have you?
No, I don't remember why
the reasoning
I did them
behind drawing them.
Anything, no.
But
My son actually has the same things, but with the eyes.
really,
Yeah, all
Right,
the time.
okay.
He's obsessed with the eyes.
he keeps on drawing them.
All the time, yeah. He's
Big
in
black
graphics
eyes, yeah.
and art now, and he still does it.
Wow.
He doodles them all the time.
Yeah.
He's not even aware he's doing it half
Right.
the time.
Was the bruises on your leg the same area where you had the metal?
Mine was right, it was right on the top of my leg.
And mine was like down here, near my ankle. So.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Tracy, for sharing. That's really fantastic.
Thanks, Tracy.
Maybe we can ask Alana.
Okay, my name's Alana. I'm 46 and I live in Somerset. I'm a healer. I'm a herbalist, a Reiki master, and I do Hawaiian massage. And since probably about September last year, I felt really driven to kind of explore some of the more unusual experiences I've had in my life. I don't know why, just suddenly very driven to kind of understand and get to the bottom of it. And what's interesting is that I've had a few of my clients have come to me presenting with interesting experiences as well, with etheric implants that I've done some work on and kind of removed, and another client that I perceived I was just removing some energy, some kind of drawing out some kind of negative energy, but what he relayed to me was that he felt that he had some kind of entity inside him that I'd removed, which was kind of intriguing because I very often find that my clients reflect my own healing process. You know, they reflect it back to me, which kind of made me want to pursue this all the more, really. I don't have a lot of recall in terms of what's actually gone on, but I've had a lot of odd experiences over the years. I suppose the main experience I had that I have the most memory from happened in Egypt in '97, November of '97, and the first experience was in the King's Chamber. I went with a kind of crazy healing group from Glastonbury, and we went into the King's Chamber very early in the morning before it was open to the public. It was about 6-7 o'clock in the morning. I just remember walking into the King's Chamber, walking over to a very specific point at the side, putting my head against the wall, and the next thing I knew, I was just flying around the stars, really. I just felt that I was out in the cosmos, part of the cosmos. It was the most awesome experience. There aren't words to describe really how it feels. It was just beautiful. And then the next thing I remember physically is I'm lying in the sarcophagus in the King's Chamber. The King's Chamber is full of tourists, and I don't think they open it to the public till about 10 o'clock, so 2 hours have elapsed at some point.
How long did it feel when you were having this vision of finding the stars? Did it
Felt like moments.
Oh, right, okay, so it felt like you'd only been gone for a very short period, but in actual fact it seemed that a couple of hours had gone by, yeah?
And now I'm lying in the sarcophagus. There's the couple that are running the course. One's at my feet, one's at my head doing their thing. And I just remember feeling just like I'd been sucked back into my body way too early. I was having a great time where I was. I really suddenly felt that I was just in this huge, dense, uncomfortable physical body, and I felt totally traumatised. And I cried for basically for the rest of the day, as I remember. I remember feeling
because
really,
of having come back into your physical body.
And that sensation lasted a long time. I mean, that sense of loss, of almost homesickness, really stayed with me for months and months and months. I mean, I'd say best part of a year, really.
So it was like an instant out-of-body experience, because a lot of people have talked about astral projection and that, and it was like that happened, but just involuntarily, you just leaned against the wall and it went. Yeah.
That's right. I mean, and clearly my body was doing its own thing.
Yes.
Something was driving it, but I don't know what. I'm certainly not conscious of what.
Yeah.
And I don't know what had gone on in those couple of hours, what we'd all been doing. Probably doing some little ritual thing, I don't know. So that was an intriguing experience. And then the next experience was, I can't remember how many days later, but we were on a cruise part of the trip down the Nile, and we'd gone to visit the Temple of Hatshepsut. I don't remember very much. I remember sitting on the coach. I remember looking out the window and seeing a spot. There's like a big kind of open area in front of the temple, and I just remember seeing this spot and thinking, I need to go and stand on that spot. And there was a big group of Japanese tourists standing on it at the time. But anyway, I got off the coach and I just marched towards this spot. And this group just sort of shuffled off to the side, really. And I got to the spot, and then something really odd happened. It was like something took over my body, I don't know what. But I started moving my arms around and turning around on the spot and speaking this strange language. I don't know, it was very guttural, very kind of lots of kind of it was really a really weird language. And I just remember looking out through my eyes and being aware that my body was doing all this really weird stuff and thinking, everyone's going to think I'm some kind of nut, and just looking around to see if anyone was like and nobody seemed to even see me. I remember looking at somebody and it was almost like he was looking straight through me. And then I looked up and I could just see this enormous, huge spacecraft, round. And it was right above me, and I was looking at it from underneath, and it had kind of lights around the outside and something kind of spinning in the middle. And then there were 3 orbs, like silver orbs, about this size, that kind of came down, and they were kind of moving around me. And I just remember turning around looking at them. And again, I'm looking around and I'm thinking, is anyone seeing this? And no one, I mean, clearly no one saw it except me. And then I just suddenly felt like a bolt of electricity shoot through me. And everything appeared very different, like the light looked different. The ship was gone. And I couldn't remember my name. I remember having to get my passport out and reading my name, putting my passport away, and I forgot my name again. And so I literally had to kind of keep repeating it to myself. And then I thought, well, I better go and find the rest of the group. And it's only been about 10, 15 minutes, I thought. But at that point, everyone's coming back. They've all seen the temple. They've, done it. They've got the book, the T-shirt, and they're all heading off back to the coach. I don't know how long we were supposed to be there, but I'm sure it was more than 15 minutes. But I remember feeling really out of it for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Really.
So when this happened, were there other people in close proximity to you at that time? And do you think anybody captured you on camera or anything like that?
I don't think they even noticed me. No, I get the feeling they didn't see me, like they were looking through me. Yeah, almost.
It's interesting, the link with Egypt, because I've heard that off a lot of different contactees have mentioned Egypt in various ways, and linking back with them, a lot of people believe that ancestrally. That's that they met the Egyptians in the past and that.
I remember when I got back from Egypt, a week or so after, there was a huge, in that particular spot, that Temple of Hatshepsut, there was some kind of altercation went down, some tourists were killed supposedly. But at the time I remember thinking, there's more to that. And do you know what I mean? It kind of struck a chord with me, and I just thought, sure, there's more to that than we're hearing, you know. So those are the main experiences. But I also remember when I was reviewing this experience a number of years later, because I was having some kind of odd bruises appearing, and I suddenly remembered that I'd seen that exact same shit before when I was, I don't know how old I was, about 8, something like that. And it was just flying. I remember looking out the bedroom window, which is at the front of the house, and seeing it, and it was like literally as big as the street. It was huge. I remember, like, you know, that everything went dark, you know, because it was blocking out the light, and I saw it fly over the house. And I remember running to the back bedroom to catch it kind of coming over the house, and it wasn't there. It had disappeared. And I remember running downstairs saying, "Oh, I've just seen a spaceship," and everyone was, "Oh, very nice, dear," you know. And I was really angry because nobody believed me, you know, and I was convinced there'd be something in the papers about it because it was so real to me. Yeah. I remember checking the papers for weeks and there was nothing.
Do you think, would this have been in daylight hours or was it after dark?
It was daylight.
It's daylight.
All
so,
daylight, yeah.
So it's possible that only you saw it again, do you think? Yeah, they were appearing to you and because other people would have been in the area if it was daylight, surely, and would have seen something that large.
Well, it was enormous. I can't believe nobody didn't see it, you know. Yeah, it wasn't seen.
Have your family had any interaction or any experience?
I've not heard of any of my family talk about anything like that. I mean, when I was a few years earlier, when I was a student, I was a mature student, so I would have been in my late 30s at that point. I remember going through what I perceived at the time to be a series of psychic attacks, which would it was around Christmas time, and I was studying for my exams, and I'd get up in the morning, and then I'd only been up for an hour or so, and I'd be compelled to go to bed. I mean, I'd literally have to crawl on my hands and knees to get into bed, and then I'd get this paralysis and a crushing weight on my chest, and a visual of a kind of spinning checkerboard. And I remember I had a cat at the time, and the cat would go crazy. The cat would just like literally climb on me and sit on my chest, and I'd just kind of like pass out really. And I had some quite crazy dream sequences as a result of some of those, which are a bit intense, a bit too much to go into right now. But that was a whole series of events that went on. And then the events that probably about 4 or 5 years ago that I was talking about, I kept having a whole load of bruises. I'd wake up and I'd have like tiny little round bruise, sort of less than a centimetre, perfectly circular, just on my abdomen, round about my belly button. Right. This would happen regularly, and I kept dismissing them, and I'd be trying to watch what I did all through the day to try and figure out, you know, is there something I'm doing that's causing these bruises? Yeah. And then one morning I woke up and my arm was killing me, my left arm was absolutely killing me, and when I looked at it, it was like a faint bruise. It was like a bruise that was weeks old. It was kind of yellowy brown and just fading. But I hadn't had anything on. There was no bruise the day before. But it was the shape of a hand with like 3 really long fingers. Yeah, and that arm was really painful. At which point I thought, I can't dismiss these as me just being clumsy through the day. And I was really obsessed with Silbury Hill at the time. I very often. I remember one day, I decided I was going to go and spend the night in my car, in the car park at Silbury Hill. I'd done it a couple of times, and I talked myself out of it. I was driving home from work, and I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. And I don't really know what I did, but the next thing I remember, it's about 9:30, and I'm literally in Devizes already, and the duvet's in the back of the car, and I'm driving to Silbury Hill, and and it's snowing. And I'm spending the night in the car, and I remember I quite like kind of walking around late at night. I quite like that. I've always liked that. And I set my alarm on my phone to wake me up about, I think I set it to wake me up about 2 o'clock, because I thought all the traffic would die down by then, and I'll go for a nice walk. I like being out in nature at night. You know, I love that sort of silence. Yeah. And I remember my alarm went off at 2, and I remember feeling dreadful. I just every bone in my body hurt. And I looked at my abdomen and I had a little bruise. And I thought, well, I'll set my alarm clock for another hour, but I can't imagine I'm going to be in any fit state to walk in an hour. And then the alarm went off again in an hour's time, and I felt absolutely fine and got up and went and had a wander around. And those experiences went on for a while. I couldn't figure out what was going on. And then I went to see a healer, Chris Thomas, who I think Miles has done a video about, and he did some work with me. Those experiences seemed to stop after I'd been to see Chris.
Right. Do you think those related to
Possibly, yeah. But just recently I've been waking up in the morning and I have got a tiny little punch mark just on my wrist here.
Right.
It's just been happening just recently. I'm having
possible experiences at boxing bloody
yeah. And it's not like a bite, it's just a tiny little hole.
Have you got a camera up in your room or something like that?
Yeah, I thought about it. I don't have anything, but yeah.
Because you can get infrared cameras, but I have no idea how expensive they are.
I don't think they're cheap.
No, probably cost a bit. But if you believe you've been taken at night from your own bed, you could set that up and run it each night. You never know what you might capture.
CCTV now, cameras now that are fairly inexpensive, and I think we were talking before. I was talking to somebody about the new CCTV footage that's come about from a lady being showing a abduction. She appears to melt into the bed and then suddenly she's there again. Right. You can see that it's sort of just newly out on general sort of YouTube kind of thing, but it's. I think that's a fairly local one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Local to this neck of the woods.
Yeah, we're in the middle of investigating that case at the moment.
And I think David is from EXO as well. I think that's one of the cases he's going to be presenting actually at the conference.
She's got in touch with a number of different people about
but that's going to be one of the sort of the major, going to be a main case because it's pretty unusual. I think that everything's unusual. Yeah. What's normal?
I think it's good to try and capture video evidence because that's the holy grail. That's what everybody's looking for. With a lot of the time in contact, people in the general public are like, okay, show me the evidence. And if these incidents are actually occurring for real and are actually physical, then in theory you should be able to capture on camera, albeit sometimes they have tried this and the camera's been shut down and this sort of thing, which people will say is some people will say it would be an excuse, but that's the facts of the matter. They have tried this before.
We're encroaching onto other people's comfort zones now with this information because, there's no denying this, and enough people come together and go, excuse me, it will be heard.
The thing is, even people who do experience still have trouble stepping outside.
Of course they do. And
reality and then accepting this new reality. Because it is a new reality. Everything. It's strangeness. It's just pure strangeness. My wife has major troubles. She's coming around a little bit now, but she has major troubles accepting what's happening. And she's seen craft. She's been sat in the garden opposite me, and something moved towards us. I knew it was coming. I'd spent all day putting a fence up. I sat opposite her at the kitchen table, both having a glass of wine. Something's moved towards us. And as it's passed my wife, she started crying. The love that was oozing out of this thing, it wasn't there. There was nothing there. The love that oozed out of it made it. She was crying her eyes out. It reached me and it moved past her left side and then reached my right side and planted its hand on my right shoulder. The love was absolutely incredible. She wouldn't accept it. It was like she couldn't step outside of what her reality has told her for her 30 odd years of her life and accept something that isn't supposed to exist. She's had other experiences as well, but she still really tries so hard. She's clinging by her fingernails to hold on to her reality.
Unless it's happening to you directly, it's hard to look at that. I mean, I can look at it to a certain extent.
Same.
I don't believe I'm a contactee myself. I can say for sure, and nobody can say for sure, but I don't believe I am, because I've looked into many, many cases now, and I don't feel I express any of the signs that I might be a contactee. I've had a UFO sighting, but that's different. However, I can see, even with my level of knowledge, it's sometimes hard for me to grasp exactly what you lot have experienced.
Absolutely.
So to the normal layman who is barely looking into the subject, it must be very, very hard to understand or hard to accept that this could really be taking place.
Even for us, it's even harder for us to accept it ourselves. It's not something that we can automatically, this is happening and it's easy and we understand it. We don't. Like I say, it turns your mind trying to actually put it into our reality, our fake reality, which has been broadcast to us and we've been fed on since the day we were born.
Yeah.
It's so hard to...
It outcasts you as well.
Yeah, yes.
Sorry?
It outcasts you as well.
Because of the way the society looks at it. Yeah.
And the way you feel yourself.
Yeah.
You just know you don't belong. It's an awful feeling. Because where do you belong?
Well, this place seems archaic.
Oh, no,
I'm pretty sure I don't belong here.
I'm interested to know more about what you said about Egypt, because for some reason, out of every place on the planet where lots of people look forward to going there, I feel if it's a foreboding place for me to go.
Yeah.
There's things about the culture there that I'm very interested in, and the Valley of the Kings, and I feel that it'd be very interesting to go there. But I feel there's something saying don't go to Egypt, and I know that there's things not from this planet that have been found there, and that it's not widely known about. And I know there's still things that are going to be found there.
Yeah, there's some very interesting things across there, such as the hieroglyphics that seem to show sort of beings or show helicopters and this sort of thing.
There's still more things that are going to be found there. But for some reason, it's the one place on the planet I know I should not go. I don't know why. Has anyone else found that?
I felt very drawn to it, but I
Yeah, we've both been there.
You don't want to go there at the moment. Not the best place on earth to visit at the moment. But I do want to go there.
Can I just say, folks, we're just coming to the end of our tape. We might have, what have we got left? About 5 minutes. So I don't know if anybody would like to say anything else to wrap it up, or feels they would like to say anything further. I just have to say, I think you've all been incredibly courageous.
Absolutely.
Truly. And, well done you guys, because it really is fantastic. And I would say thank you to, honour all our connections.
Take the microphone and say that all again, please.
Honour all our connections from, the soul that we're precipitating from, whatever that means, wherever we are, for each of us, because we are really, somehow so different, yet all here together for the same purpose. And I can't tell you what that is, except I know it's about the advancement of human consciousness and the development of that. And I can't say I've been abducted or a contactee. When Roger Lear was at the Lachlan conference a couple of years ago, he brought his black light. I don't know if anybody has heard about the black light. And the black light showed up on myself. It did on other people. And for some, it was makeup. Ladies' makeup shows up.
Orange.
Mine was orange and green and yellow all over my hands and arms. And they gave me a T-shirt for it. But it was because that came about as well, because one of the people who was working with Roger Lear had many abduction experiences, and had the prints on. They apparently last about 24 hours on the wall, on his body, perfect prints of a limb. Of somebody restraining, holding, that kind of thing. And so, it's just very interesting, because we're finding more and more little tools like that. And I'm sure, I don't know if people have heard of Daryl Sims. He's known as the alien hunter. You can Google him, and he got very cross. He's been a lifelong abductee himself, and he wasn't too bothered about that. He just says in his Texan voice, get over the whining. Yeah, right. He's a bloke. But anyway, he said he got really cross when they came after his child. And that's when he went, on the hunt. He went ballistic, and he still is. He calls himself alien hunter. And what's really wonderful about his work is that he does bloods, he does everything. He will, he researches that to the nth degree, which is fantastic. So whilst we're not doing that, we're not about that, we don't have those kind of resources, but it is being done, so we can bring in all of that to substantiate what's all is going on here. But I personally am very, very interested in the consciousness development and the soul spiritual development. Some people have trouble with those two words, but anyway, whatever that higher element of us is, grounding in these bodies, I'm not quite sure where that all takes us, but I just know it's fantastic. So thank you very much. I would like to say a really big thank you to Miles for coming along, because how wonderful helping us document all this, because I think this is pretty historic.
Hi, my name is Mike. I'd just like to say a couple of few words over this marvellous presentation that's been presented by Miles and Joanne and Dave. It's been really good. I run a magazine called Rapport, which is to do with experiences. Now, what I've heard today is good, and what I'd like to say more is that the stuff that we've heard today is part of the way the world is going, and that we are going to have a dramatic change, and this is all due to having DNA changing. The world is going to be a lot more spiritually aware, and this is just part of it. This small group that we've seen today is so small, but there is a greater picture out there. Overall, the whole world will eventually change, and we will accept UFOs, we will accept aliens just as ordinary people, and that could very well be in the very near future. And I would just like to say that and finish. Thank you.
Okay, so this is the first meeting. There will be a second, there'll be a third, and there'll be many more. And I hope that we're going to get an awful lot out of this. So again, thanks for coming, and I'll let you know when the next one is, but please keep in touch with us.
And this will be Basis Live on YouTube. The Basis series is for investigators. It's purely for investigators. It's a long form type of thing. We put all the warts and whatever's in there so that it's for investigators. And that's the main thing, to investigate this phenomenon. And good luck, and God bless all you people who came out tonight, and thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Do you want to draw?
I'm not very good at
We've got a flip chart if anybody does.
I draw for a living,
scribble.
but not artistically. Right. Okay. Someone that was living with me at the time, like myself, used to go, well, still do go to a spiritualist church, and part of what I do there is regression and transfiguration. In the transfiguration, I was standing in my kitchen, and a friend who was living with me at the time said, why don't we do a bit of transfiguration? So we wasn't doing this from any UFO or any other reason than to do with what we sometimes do at the spiritualist place where we go. We did a short meditation, and she was standing about 4 foot away from me, looking at me, and I felt that I was standing next to her, looking back at myself, and it was really a weird sensation because I was outside of myself looking at me, and it's like my face, again, it's something that Scott said about what you saw about a craft, where you only saw part of it. My face, I don't know if it was like a reptilian, but it was like a scaly and red, and quite big and roundish. Scales, not like fish scales, but it's almost like different. Imagine if you got lumps of red coal, put them everywhere, it looked a bit more like that in that sort of configuration. And parts of my face was only visible. It's almost as if everything, the time synchronization was all out. I could see my eye, but I couldn't see the rest of my face, and I see a bit of my mouth and that. But it's happening so quick that you could see the whole outline of my face. And the remarkable thing was, my friend described this to me. She described what she was seeing, and it was exactly the same, and I mean exactly the same as what I was seeing. I could never prove to her, of course, that, you know, what she was saying, I saw the same. I couldn't prove to anyone, but she proved to me that what she saw, I don't doubt for one instant that what she saw was very real, and it was exactly the same as what I saw. And I felt that I belonged.
Okay, so we're just going to pick up Brian's story.
Okay.
Thanks, Brian.
Part 2.
Yes.
Brian, before you continue, I wanted to ask you what type of craft that was that you saw in your vision.
It was circular.
Like a sphere?
No, it was like it was like a deep at the bottom, round. And it was like a dome on top.
Like a crash helmet.
Crash helmet would be too roundy. That'd be too. Didn't seem as high as that.
Dome disc, yeah.
It seemed like a lot of it was. It's almost like the bottom part that was circular around. It's more like the dustbin lid shape, rather than a high dome.
I got you.
It's more like the Abductee craft, isn't it?
Yeah, sort of. Or the Minville.
And there seemed lots of colours with it.
So is this 1951?
No, this was later on when I was a teenager. That
colours, what, emanating from it, or or from definite light sources on it?
Light sources on it.
Right.
Yeah, Oh no, not. It wasn't projecting the colours other than. It was the colours seemed part of it.
Yeah.
But it was. I've got an image, and if I was a good artist, I might be able to draw something. But to describe it, a bit awkward. It's a bit awkward. Right. Okay, they're giving me information. And I know that it's not for Brian; it's for another dimension of me, if you like. Yeah. That's what I'm feeling. I'm a spiritual healer, and also link in with a being that comes from a long, long way away, and that is, it's like a light greeny colour, very physically very delicate, and I've seen him. I say him, I don't think it's got a gender, but it almost looks like how could I describe it?
Is this a being that comes through with the healing?
It comes through with the healing, yeah. When that normally gives that. If someone was a harsh person, he wouldn't be able to come through, because he's such a delicate, emotionally or sort of his energies are very delicate. Even though as a being he can be powerful in his own way. I say he. It's not he or a she, but I'm just using it as a description. it looks more like head looks a little bit like a locust. It's a very unusual looking. On to something else. Part of me was there's another dimension that wasn't with Brian. It was belonging somewhere else.
Yeah,
I felt that's what we were seeing.
That does actually fit in with some of the cases that I've investigated where people have seen themselves, sometimes under aggression, sometimes not. They've actually seen themselves as a grey or as a reptilian. Whether you're seeing aspects of yourself through that, and it's showing in that visual form. It's hard to say, really.
Yeah, and sorry, when I said I do regression, I don't. I meant to say transfiguration. That was, and I was a bit nervous, and I didn't correct myself then. I wanted to keep with the flow. So I've never been regressed, and I've never done it. Perhaps that's something one day. I've always felt that I've been getting all through my later life. Probably the second half of my life, I felt that I've been getting information and I've been feeling it here as if I've been getting something fed to me. I don't know the details of that information, but I'm aware when I'm getting it. It's, you know, it's almost like, here they go again, they're giving me something, and I feel that's for something later on, that something other than Brian, part of me, is getting fed.
Is that like a sensation, Brian? Like a specific sensation
yes,
that you get used to, and you just know something's being downloaded, and then I mean, does it last a moment, or is it for an hour or two, or how? Or it can
be for a couple of hours sometimes. Yes, at any particular time. I'm just aware that there